Now, that means that tuition, your tuition is going to go to building buildings and doing other things, like hotels and so on. Now, in addition to that, that is an issue of privatization. You're going to, and you've talked about all the things that are wrong with getting rid of the public character and accessibility. That's awful. But at the same time, privatization also has to do with what Udolph has said. He wants the faculty to become entrepreneurs. What does that mean? It means they should be bringing in lots of money to pay for their own salaries, their own research, etc. Well, you know, French literature is not going to be able to do that, and neither is linguistics and so many other things. But in addition to that, when you go and get private money from a company or even from parts of the federal government, from the military and so on, that is not necessarily for the most important research for the future. It's for the research for the money that will guarantee research now. It is not what a public research university ought to be doing. It's changing it. And then when the Gould Commission comes along and sets up a workshop on educational delivery systems, what does that mean? It means computerization. That is, let's get, instead of having sociology professors, let's get one famous sociology professor to give a lecture or a couple of lectures, and we'll just have everybody do that, and then we have to hire fewer sociologists, and then everybody can take that, and they can take exams by computer, fill in the blank, or you know, A through B, and they'll grade. That is actually being proposed by someone on the commission from this university. Right? That's what an educational delivery system is mostly about. Right? That is privatization. There's another part about unions. Why do they want to bust unions? Because in a corporate organization, there are two kinds of employees. The assets, the ones who are well paid, and the resources. And guess who the resources are? Not just, it's the staff on the one hand and the lower faculty on the other, and lots of faculty who are not, quote, the well-paid stars, and so on. Those are the resources, and in any organization that's corporate, you minimize the cost of resources. And then you maximize production. You have a factory metaphor. You're producing degrees. You're producing educations measured by degrees. That's your measure of efficiency, so the more degrees, the better. And that's a disastrous metaphor for anything that's a real public resource university. Privatization is the issue outside and inside, and that is what must be fought. And when students are asked to have their student fees raised, they're being taxed. They're being taxed not just for that, but if they have to borrow the money, over a period of time, they're going to pay back 100%. And that 100% is going to be paid back by after-tax income. So if their taxes are like if the taxes are, say, 30%, then what's going to happen is they're being taxed 230%. That's the Schwarzenegger tax, guys. Call it that.
Thank you very much, George Lakoff. Our next speaker is Christian Haesemeyer. He received his PhD in mathematics in 2003 from Northwestern. He has held postdocs at the University of Illinois, Princeton, and has been a postdoc at UCLA since 2008. Christian.
Hi. Well, I'm going to be very short. You might not have noticed this, but this morning there was an earthquakes exercise on campus, right? And what people in the university leadership are trying to tell us is what's happening right now is like an earthquake. The only thing you can do is ameliorate it, right? You can do something to not be hit by it as badly. But it's not an earthquake. It's man-made. It's a social thing. It's political, and we can turn it back. So go to the website George said, which I've already forgotten, and sign up, right? And if it doesn't work, go to Sacramento and stay there until things change.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christian, for those brilliant and concise words. Next, Mark Sawyer is Associate Professor of African American Studies and Political Science and the Director of the Center for the Study of Race, Ethnicity, and Politics. Mark.
Thanks, Ken. I'm not going to be that brief, but I'm going to try and be as brief as I can. I see 3 dimensions of, I guess we're here to talk about how to save UC. And I see 3 things that we have to think about. 1 is political, 2 is pragmatic, 3 is programmatic. George covered part of the political. One thing I did a little research, and it turns out that employees to the UC system were the 3rd largest group of donors to Obama's campaign. Behind Goldman Sachs, and we know how much money they've gotten, and Harvard. So essentially, we are not leveraging that collective voice in Washington that we as employees contributed to that campaign, and we need to talk to them specifically about the role of the university, but we need to get set on a message both for California voters as well as politicians. And one thing I think that's been, at least just one cautionary tale that I've gotten, is a lot of the focus has been, particularly, and I can understand why people are upset with UDOF, but on sort of UDOF the person and targeting the administration with the idea that the system is rife with waste, fraud, and abuse. The problem with that is that what message does the public get if the UC is a place of waste, fraud, and abuse? Cut more, right? So they can't waste your money, and you have to. So we have to be really careful about going out and selling the image of what we do in a positive terms, and getting our students and faculty out front, and in particular also getting our alumni engaged. And here's another kind of sort of criticism that I think I'm going to throw out, is we got to stop the happy talk. There's been too much happy talk about what's going on. I was in a meeting with alumni donors, and there were people sort of kicking us under the table saying, you know, don't say things how bad things really are. And our response was, and my response was, I am going to say how bad things really are. What we need to do is there are a lot of alumni who maybe aren't going to donate money, but they're very concerned about the institution that they received their degree from, and that the institution remains here, and they care about it, and they take it seriously, and we need to sound the alarm to them. The alarm needs to go out loud and clear, and it can't be just, oh, can you come out and help, and things are going really well, and we have this wonderful program over here. It needs to be the institution that you attended, that you got your degree with, is under threat, and it won't be the same institution that you attended any longer if you don't step up to the plate. And I think there are alumni of all stripes who are willing to get out and help, and especially if they hear it from the students. So those in some ways are part of the sort of political, and at least part of the political communication part, is just drop the waste, fraud, and abuse talk and focus on, in particular, sounding the alarm and getting students and faculty engaged and leveraging our assets. Again, employees of the UC system were the 3rd largest donors to the Obama campaign, only behind Harvard and Goldman Sachs. And again, we know how much Goldman Sachs has gotten. The second part is pragmatic. One thing that I think we're going to have to think about broadly is programmatic innovation. We have too many atomized departments. There's a lot of replication, and this provides problems of access. We need to think about, use this opportunity to think about a more free-flowing intellectual environment that begins as I think as Vice Chancellor Claudia Mitchell-Kernan talked about, on sort of thematic issues. You could think about and being sort of much more sort of truly interdisciplinary as a sort of programmatic part. And so finally, in closing, I think that we have to think about developing sort of thematic programs, like, for instance, race and equality, building programs around particular time periods like medieval, and questions around certain problem-driven programs like the environment, genetics, brains and cognition, et cetera, and then building and having people get degrees, particularly graduate students get degrees, with a sort of disciplinary focus, but focusing on the particular problem and allowing them to sort of move freely through departmental cultures.